music for a murder, or 2, or 3, or 9.
Who's this?
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to meet a dear friend. 9 killed you. 9 shall die.
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
How do?
This week, we're discussing the horror classic, The Abominable Dr. Phibes, starring Vincent Price, Joseph Cotton. Anybody else?
The chick from Sinbad.
Who has no lines and is just a photograph or dead the entire movie. Yes, Caroline Munro, who in my mind had a huge role. But she is just a photograph and a corpse. That's
beauty
what she
is the two main characters in this have no lines. The three main characters have no lines whatsoever. Just Vincent Price laughing to himself in his weird mask.
That 100%. This movie is crazy. Anyway, each week on the podcast that wouldn't die, we discuss guilty pleasures and forgotten classics of the horror and sci-fi genres with a comedic twist. Aaron, what's the latest? What you doing?
Dude, I just got back from Japan, and
Look
let
at
me
you.
tell you. Let me frickin' tell you.
Your arms are tired?
And my arms are tired. I the first night back, I stayed up at 2:00 in the morning. I was wide awake. I was texting my son. I'm like, why isn't William responding? I noticed it's 2 a.m. and I'm jacked up. So I took an Ambien and then slept till 2 in the afternoon. My son kept popping his head in at 1:00 in the afternoon. Are you making breakfast? I'm like, are you making breakfast? Yeah. Are you making breakfast? Then I went back to sleep for another hour. Last night, it was like 10:30. I'm like, I got to adjust my schedule. So it's 10:30. I take an Ambien. And then I think I waited too long because there's like a window. Like
Yes.
you take Ambien, and if you wait too long, then you're just tripping balls. So I'm laying there trying with my eyes closed, and I'm not falling asleep. And I can feel the tripping going on. I'm like, no. I got to go to sleep. So I had weird up dreams.
Yep.
And still slept for 12 hours, which I have not done since my teenage years.
It's not easy to do, frankly, when you reach a certain age.
Dude, it is not easy. God bless Ambien. So I'm going to try to go to bed at 9:00 tonight, take an Ambien, and set an alarm perhaps.
Make yourself get up in the morning.
I got to make myself get up because I cannot live my life 12 hours. Because the problem with 12 hours, it feels great. You're rolling in bed, getting your cup of coffee at 1 in the afternoon, but you just aren't quite as alert as you might want to be.
100%.
You're
half a zombie.
Boo-boo. But Japan was rock and roll. We went to some sacred place and went into a haunted cemetery. But again, just like when I was in Scotland at Greyfriars Cemetery, I felt nothing. I'm clearly not Carrie White because I'm not getting any kind of beyond the grave vibes or anything else.
I thought you meant emotionally. I thought emotionally, I feel death means nothing to me now.
It means nothing to me. No. You know, Japanese ghosts are up. I mean, going to Japan is like going to Iceland or the northern countries where they believe in creepers and spirits and
the
everything.
Grudge.
The Grudge, The Ring, all that shit. Nothing. I don't know what does that mean? That I'm just not attuned, or does that mean it's not a thing?
What do you think the answer is, Aaron?
Well, first of all, let's be clear. I do not want the Ring following me around.
That's what I'm saying.
Ghosts are up.
They're terrifying.
If they just want to pass by me and go right over to my roommate, who is a heavy believer, that's all right. She did hear clapping at night when we spent the night in this Buddhist temple. I'm like, that's all you.
Why are you spending the night in a Buddhist temple?
That was one of our thing. We went up to these sacred mountains outside. They're like 2.5 hours from Kyoto. So we get there and we're in a Buddhist temple. So we had to meditate. Then we ate what the monks ate. We spent the night. It was very, very cool.
Oh, okay.
It was very cool.
You weren't just breaking in or sneaking behind something and
No, it was our rooms were the paper screens. Okay. We were on the floor with the scoliosis bed with like the buckwheat bean pillow, which is like sleeping on concrete. I was awake all night long. It was a living hell. And jackasses at 5 a.m. started taking Zoom meetings in the both rooms around me. Again, paper walls.
Those
It's
bastards.
very important that your Zoom calls be on speaker so I can hear all the conversations.
Did their jackassery?
Bitch was gonna stab. Bitch was gonna stab.
Did you feel like a Dr. Phibes moment coming on? Where like, I have to get my revenge now on these Zoom people.
I often think that. I was walking around muttering because I assumed it was somebody from a different group, but I kept wandering around. Who's this motherfucker? Who's this motherfucker? I realized it's my group. They're all on like student council, so they needed to be there for like board meetings, discuss finances. I was like, they're fucking quiet areas. So as soon as one's rocking and rolling, all of a sudden I hear another one logging in. I was like, it's 5 a.m.
And we're in a Buddhist temple. For God's sake.
We're in a Buddhist temple with rice paper walls. Walls, I tell you.
Sweet Jesus.
It was very awesome. I felt
good.
Spiritual. I felt very spiritual. I bought a ton of shit. I spent hundreds of dollars on strawberry Kit Kats, which are a bomb thing.
Okay.
I ate the most delicious food. Nothing over seasoned. Everything was perfectly seasoned and delicious. So Aaron says thumbs up Japan.
Here's my question, and I often wonder this. Speaking as somebody who hates fish, can you go to Japan and have meals and like not hit McDonald's for every meal, essentially?
First of all, half the kids hit McDonald's.
Well, but you know what I mean.
But let me just tell you,
Please.
McDonald's has a teriyaki burger with an egg. I twice went to McDonald's to get the salted lychee milkshake. But I ate no fish because what do I want? I want noodles. So I had udon, I had ramen.
So there are options.
100%. You don't have to have Kobe beef. There were places, kids were paying like 500 yen for Kobe beef, grilled right there in front of you. And that's like $5.
Not bad. Okay, I'm going.
Food, they made raw. I went to one place and ordered this ramen. The broth was chicken and duck broth with light sesame. They cooked the noodles right in front of me. Beautiful presentation. A thin slice of roast beef, a thin slice of chicken on top. I mean, perfect. You don't have to add anything to it.
Perfect. I'm in.
Yeah,
I'm
totally.
in.
I mean, if you like fish, for sure. My roommate kept going to the conveni, which is what they call the convenience markets, where we ate 90% of our meals, to buy the fried fish for breakfast. But you don't have to if you don't want to.
Fair enough.
I ate at least 700 egg salads, Japanese egg salads, and they were so fucking good.
Delish.
Yep.
Soy delish. Okay, well, let's get our train back on the tracks. Give us your 30-second synopsis of the abominable.
The abdominal about Dr. Phibes' belly.
Pretty much. His Crohn's disease. Abominable Dr. Phibes, for good sakes.
It's a number of a series that are all like revenge fantasies. Doesn't it seem like all Vincent Price movies are like revenge fantasies?
House of Wax.
Yeah. Theater of Blood.
100%.
Which is what we need to do next. Because Theater of Blood is just like this, but even more over the top.
House on Haunted Hill.
Terrible. Yes, but that's funny, though. That used to be on Elvira all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So Dr. Phibes, wife was in a car accident. Surgeons could not save her. I'm angry. I need revenge, so I'm going to kill all the doctors. And then I'm going to kill myself and live with my dead bride.
Okay, number one, she had an illness, and Dr. Phibes was in a car accident trying to get to her in time.
Either way. Either way, the doctors couldn't save her.
Yep.
I was wondering how he got all melty. I thought they were in the car together, and he got melty and he did not.
No, he was in a horrible car accident. It's funny because
what kind of a doctor is he? Musicologist?
And theology.
It's
so freaking ridiculous. Oh my God. So he's a PhD. He's a,
I hope he's not an MD in
He's
the art of organ music. That's a different kind of organ.
100%. No, it's hilarious. He's playing, but it sounds like he's at the carnival. It's not like the Phantom of the Opera. It is like the shittiest hockey game or something. Yeah. I was like, what is he doing? What is happening? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have both seen this. Do you remember when you might have seen this?
Well, I'll tell you, it was not at the theater.
No.
So I'm sure it was some kind of Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon. We only had 12 channels pre-cable, and it was just on. So I probably saw it 12 times just because it was on, and I was like doing something else. I was playing with clay or drawing a picture. And it was just on a constant loop. That's how I saw it.
Playing with clay.
I like clay. Did you ever, my theory, like give me clay and then I can make whatever I want versus I never wanted Barbie dolls because then you just have a Barbie doll.
Interesting theory. I can see what that might be.
Let me just tell you that.
I feel like something similar to you, but I feel like in the deepest recesses of my mind, like it was Halloween or something, and you're flipping channels. It's on Channel 5, KTLA,
or Channel 9.
Something along those lines. Now, I have a soft spot for Vincent Price because he was still doing his Vincent Price shit. Well, probably into the 80s. He was still doing his shit because it's. I was watching this thing about those Hammer movies and how, in the 50s through the 60s, they had those kind of gothic horror, the horror of Frankenstein, the Curse of Dracula, whatever.
Love it. Yes.
And they had a hard time when they got to the 70s because then you had like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and they're like, how do we compete? Christopher Lee in a cape. How's that going to stack up to an insane cannibal family with chainsaws? What do we do?
It's a whole different genre.
It is.
I mean, one is really, truly a horror. Whereas no one's ever scared of Vincent Price. It's more like it's like a fun horror. He's not scary.
I think that's true in our modern sensibility. But I think at the time, he was like the master of horror. I think we were supposed to think Peter Cushing, if you're in 1959, Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee, Vincent Price, you're watching that shit going, God damn, I'm scared. My heart's aflutter.
Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, I always assumed they got them because Vincent Price was not available. There were always lesser prices. But go ahead, tell me, what's the most terrifying Vincent Price movie? Exactly.
Okay, fair. But I have
just like Vincent Price
doing his Vincent Price shit. Absolutely,
Vincent Price,
100%. Now I say this. I have a recollection of you and I watching Elvira. This might have been early 80s, and it was like Fall of the House of Usher or some shit with Vincent Price, and there was some reveal where it's like there's a scary dude in the basement or some shit like that. And I remember it profoundly scared me at 4 years old or whatever, however old I was at the time. So I don't know. To answer your question, I don't know. Is it possible in 59 people were like, the Tingler, that's some scary ass shit? Or was it or was it always kind of tongue in cheek? We're having a good time, not particularly scary. I don't know.
So you think like in the 50s, well, I mean, that was state of the art. It's probably terrifying to them versus us. It's funny.
Right. Boris Karloff.
It was an innocent time.
Bela Lugosi. My feeling is in that period of time, theater goers were terrified at Bela Lugosi as Dracula or Boris Karloff as Frankenstein.
I think I read people fainted.
Right. Yeah. So I think there's I think it's like as time passes.
He was on Broadway as Dracula. That's how they tapped him to do the movie.
Oh, he was a huge star. They wanted
Yeah.
him to play every role. They wanted him to be Frankenstein. They wanted
Right.
him to be the Mummy. And he's like, hell no, I'm not doing that shit.
Oh yeah, he regretted that.
He did, well, because since we're going off on this tangent, he playing Dracula is like this kind of sensuous, like I'm a
Right.
sexy guy and I'm seducing
I'm
the
an
women.
aristocrat. I'm a sex
100%.
symbol.
100%. If you tell me now I'm Frankenstein,
Yeah.
where all I do is stagger around going fire bad, he's like, deuces. I'm
Yeah.
out. Okay. Which is why, what was it? Not even 10 years later, he was like the fourth lead in The Wolfman.
Right. But he was
So
good in the Wolfman.
he
Because
was.
let's be clear, the Wolfman sucked, and Lon Chaney Jr. sucked. But Bela as the gypsy was
Yep.
great. That was like the best part in that movie.
Was it scary? Maybe. I don't know. It's hard for me to
When you were
judge.
4, I guess.
When I was 4.
Now I remember having a kindergartner telling me about Saw. So maybe for that child, not so scary.
Now, there is a moment.
And I'm not sure if that's a CPS call.
It's 100% a CPS call. I will tell my children, if I do that, I'm going to call CPS on myself. But there was a moment in the Abominable Dr. Phibes that stuck with me. Like, I couldn't remember what the plot was, but it's the scene where the nurse is sleeping in her bed and the
Oh, the slime.
they're dripping the slime on her face, and then they cut to it later, and it's just like a skull because the locust got at her. That's that was a moment. That was a moment.
That was good. Did you notice that the cutout above actually had her boobs drawn
did.
on for the first scene? Because it's important to know where everything is.
That is okay. We're jumping right in. We got to talk about that scene. That is the most ridiculous. So, okay, Dr. Phibes is trying to get revenge, right? The last, like one of the last people he's trying to kill is the nurse. There's like 15 doctors, one nurse who are, involved in this surgery or whatever it is. He's above her.
And do we ever know what her illness or whatever was wrong with her that required one nurse and 35 doctors?
Unclear.
Right.
But he had like a clear plastic like a tracing of a female body that he just slaps on the ground, and coincidentally that is exactly right above the nurse in her bed. I didn't see him like comparing like notes or anything. He's just like, I guess this is the right spot. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. Absolutely no sense. And oh my god, so to get
Okay, we
jump
need to
in,
talk
please go for
the
it.
fact that on top of his revenge, for some reason,
Yes.
it also has to follow the chronology of the plagues of Egypt.
Correct.
Why? Don't know.
He's
Why did
not Jewish, as far as
He's
we
not
know.
Jewish, but it's very important that we also have custom-made necklaces for each plague for each person that is going to be killed.
Correct. Written in Hebrew.
Yes.
Written in Hebrew that he accidentally leaves one behind that somebody finds. But it's all
Right.
part of his ritual. And why? Who? Because they said, well, he in Zurich or some fucking place, he was studying. He was a doctor of theology, so therefore he knows about some shit. He knows.
He
Therefore,
knows some shit.
he knows some shit.
He knows the Hebrew alphabet. Thank you.
100%. 100%. So he's in his laboratory with his mute assistant, and we're going to talk about her because she makes absolutely no goddamn sense.
He has a laboratory, and let's be clear, he's an organist and a theologian.
Correct.
So why he has a laboratory and why he has like wind up puppets everywhere like it's Blade Runner, also unclear.
Unclear.
Organ help you with that?
Unclear. None of this is clear.
Hebrew.
Well,
Okay.
and that's the thing. They're hammering the whole medical plot line. So when you hear Dr. Phibes, you assume he's an MD, he's a medical doctor. No, he is not. He just happened to get he finished his doctorate across various pipe organ playing, evidently.
He's a doctor of pipe organry. and
100%.
theology.
Very much so. So he's in his laboratory, and it appears to be he's got a big stew pot filled with Brussels sprouts.
Stew.
Is that what he's literally his mute assistant carries a bowl full of what look like Brussels sprouts to me. No explanation, because again, she's mute and he only talks through a weird speaker he sticks in his neck.
Like the Frankenstein bolt.
Right. And he only talks like very sporadically. So he's not like, yes, my dear, bring me the accursed Brussels sprouts from my cauldron. There's never that moment. So he
we don't even know if she's human. Is this his daughter? Is this one of his robots? I mean, this is where we're sliding into like a Blade Runner thing. Is she a replicant? She does not speak. And we don't know why she has a psychic connection and already knows what to do.
Behind the scenes, they said in an earlier version of the script, it was supposed to be a reveal that she was kind of a clockwork person as well. They rejected that because, again, the clockwork people in his band that plays look very clockworky, right?
That could be, I mean, literally, it's what's his name's house in Blade Runner. Who's
Yes.
The guy from Newhart?
Right. His name in the movie is like Sebastian or some J.S. Sebastian or
J.S.
something.
Sebastian. He has a whole series because he worked at the company. So he had the clockwork, this one's, but he also worked on the ones where you can't tell the difference.
Correct. So she's his mute assistant. We're jumping all the goddamn way around. His mute assistant later is killed by acid. Screams, and she screams, so she's able to speak. She just chooses not to, 100%. So there's never a moment where they're like, "Oh my God, she was
Everyone
clockwork."
bores her. She has nothing to say.
it makes absolutely no sense. It's nonsense. So anyway, he makes his big Brussels sprout stew, which creates some kind of green slime liquid, which he digs a hole through the ceiling and like a plastic tube and dribbles that on the nurse's face, which you see her like flinching as the stuff's like pouring.
Because it's in her eyes, it's going up her nose, it's covering her mouth. She realizes now, how am I going to breathe without breaking the scene?
100% her eye.
And then for half of it was spilling all over the lamp. So I was like, what is that?
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Splish splash.
Apparently you didn't drill that hole quite exactly where you needed it to be.
Correct. So after she is doused in the green slime, then he like has a thing full of locusts, which are just like grasshoppers.
Which are clearly too big to fit because they plug them in and the locusts aren't going anywhere. So at one point, the Price is like whacking it, trying to
get those damn things in there.
They're the size of your hand. They're the biggest grasshoppers I've ever seen in my life. They're all like stacked in there trying to go on a tube.
At one point, you see him literally pull one out of the tube and just kind of shove it in the hole. It's like, was there not a locust wrangler on set that could have helped out with this? Who's to say? So smash cut, the cops barge in because this is the best part. She's under protective custody. There are cops frickin' everywhere. And yet, the Abominable Dr. Phibes somehow makes it in there. He's not like supernatural. He's just some old dude with like burns on his face.
Well, no one's looking for him, so he's just walking around.
Yes.
Honestly, there was nobody there but one cop. They could have given him a zap and gone in there and just shot that chick. But
100%.
Very important when you're an arch villain that you follow your weird plan.
Oh God, this movie. So when the movie begins, there's already been one death off screen.
Due to bees, but we're calling it boils.
Yes, because the person got stung so much that their face looked like boils, which is one of the plagues.
That seems like a cop out. A boil is what you get when your thighs rub together, and it's a big fat.
Is that what it is? You just gotta lance it.
You gotta lance it.
And Evan,
pimple popper.
100%. Another person is killed because they open up the skylight and just throw some bats in there. They're like, get those bats at him. And I was reading I'm doing behind the scenes as we go, evidently. In the original plagues, one was of gnats and one was of flies. And for cinematic reasons, they changed those to bats and rats.
Well, gnats are very small, so I can see that being a pain in the butt.
It would be an annoyance more than anything else. But that being said, you could have done something.
Flies, it could be horse flies, it could be midges, it could be a whole series of various size flying.
Did you say it could be midgets?
Midges are these tiny little like flies.
Okay, I know what you're talking about now. I was like, what are we?
No, see them. You don't see them, and all of a sudden they're biting you.
Yes, midges. Not. I thought you were.
There's the thing I was saying.
The plague of little people is what I thought you were saying.
Plague of midgets.
That's not appropriate.
That was the lesser known plague of Egypt.
100%.
That's why there are no Egyptian small people, because they were all taken care of.
There are none.
The parting of the Red Sea or the Dead 100%. Sea or one of the seas.
Oh, sweet Jesus. So the people are dying one step after another, and it's like the cops are the worst. It's like the Keystone Cops. It's like cops from Benny Hill. They are just bumbling morons.
It was giving me the vibes of Pink Panther. In fact, if you go to Theater of Blood, they're even more bizarre. It's like the same kind of comedy duo, even wackier. It's totally Peter Sellers, but by the next movie.
It is. It's Inspector Clouseau. Mm-hmm. It's basically what we're doing. And it's just like, is this supposed to be funny? The vibe of this movie is all over the place. So I'm not sure if it's meant to be. I guess it's meant to be campy.
It's super campy. And I love the sets. They are so pure late 60s. I mean, I just don't imagine, what's his name? Joseph Cotton living in this swinging bachelor pad. It's fantastic.
Now, this takes place in the greater London area. So everybody has accents, except for literally Joseph Cotton and Vincent Price, who are just doing their regular ass voices, essentially.
Vincent Price is English.
No, he's not.
What?
Vincent Price, American. He's from Maryland.
What?
Google it.
I'll fucking Google it right now, mother.
Do it. Check it out. No, it's a total freak show because I just totally lost my train of thought with you Googling and all this other stuff. But there's one of the doctors.
St. Louis, Missouri,
not Maryland. My bad.
Our family's from St. Louis. Maybe we're related.
Could be, 100%. But there's one of the dudes gets killed because he's trying to watch like a stag film, and it's like this. It's this comedic British actor you've seen in 1,000 things. Terry Thomas, 100%.
With a big gap. It's a mad world. He always plays like he's smoking a pipe. He looks like somebody who'd be in Wonka, but he was not in Wonka. He has a huge gap in his front teeth. When you saw him, you would recognize him.
100%. But he doesn't do anything funny in this movie. I guess just him watching an old stag film is hilarious. Is that what it is?
I mean, and the way he died, I mean, that seems reasonable. Of all these terrible ways to die, if you just want me to watch a movie while you slowly drain all my blood out, that sounds better than pitching me off a roof or setting me on fire. 100%.
No, and they slowly like hook him up like they're doing a blood transfusion and like suck all the blood out of him while he slowly expires. Meanwhile, his maid is upstairs.
He went out for the evening.
No, she went upstairs.
She said she was going out for the evening, would be back late. Then all of a sudden they announced that she's upstairs sleeping. So she must have walked right by and went to bed.
His exsanguinated corpse flopped there. She just walks on by. Yeah. So, you know what? This movie, I was uncertain when it took place because it's got that kind of Victorian feel to it.
Yeah.
But people are driving cars.
No. It's contemporary because you go to Joseph Cotton's. It's clearly 60s. There was a time in the 60s where that kind of Art Deco, kind of Art Nouveau kind of look was back.
Well, here's the thing.
What?
Filmed in 1972.
Yeah.
takes place in 1921.
This is bullshit because Joseph Cotton's house is clearly 1960. So that
Yep.
makes no fucking sense.
I'm just telling you, his wife, because they go to the grave and you can see the date of her death on the graves. So
Okay, they had shag carpet in Joseph Cotton's apartment. That makes no fucking. They're not dressed like the 20s.
Big old pork chop sideburns, and the
I
hair is just a
mean,
little bit longer. Yeah, it's
literally they're wearing the shiny boots that I had as a small child. They are high as a kite.
it's like Austin Powers. That's the look they were going for. 100%.
I mean, they had Eames chairs. I mean, this is ridiculous. It was not the 1920s. But
I'm telling you when it takes place. I looked it up.
people are dum-dums.
Well,
It's true the cars are older, but that's the only thing older. All the furnishings are like from the 60s.
Well, and again, so assuming it takes place in the 20s, at what point the clockwork machines start playing like oh Frank Sinatra standard?
Right.
Just set him up, Joe. It was.
I did write down. I'm like, why is all the music was the 1920s music very popular in the 60s? I did write that down.
It was big. It's coming back. It's coming back.
This is nonsense.
No, it's this movie. So the doctors are killed one right after another. One dude is like flying in a plane, like a biplane from World War I, and attacked by guinea pigs, seemingly. Because they were the cleanest, nicest rats you might ever encounter.
Dude.
Right?
Oh, there's a rat? You're not going to just throw it out the window? You're going to just crash your plane?
Crash the plane. Right. 100%.
Yeah, that was ding dong. Ah!
Yeah. Mushroom cloud. Yeah. And it's always the cops are almost there. They're like, oh shit, stop.
100%.
Nope, dead. There was one scene that I found particularly bizarre and outlandish. They are like, we've only got 2 people left that we have to rescue. So one guy they like, hey, we're going to take you to protective custody. Then they open up a door, and out of nowhere, a gold unicorn smashes through the door and impales him. And he's stuck. So, and the unicorn horn has kind of like it's a drill bit, essentially. Yeah. So they have to crank the dude.
And they're like, you're going to go counterclockwise or something. I'm like, you're going to pick up this giant unicorn and spin it out my ass. You're just going to pull that thing straight out.
And literally, I'm watching this going, what am I seeing? Because you only see his feet kind of extending out and kind of rotating. And I'm like, are they seriously unwinding him?
They're unscrewing him from the unicorn. Yeah. It's nice that they did have a giant fucking unicorn, like life size. Just happens to be standing there ready to go.
And I rewound it. And I'm like, did I miss something? Did I miss a point where they go like, oh, watch out for that giant golden unicorn that's in the doorway?
It sometimes attacks.
It sometimes attacks. In the next scene, they say, oh, well, Dr. Phibes set up a catapult across the street. No one noticed that?
Wait. So this life-size unicorn was shot from across the street?
Yes.
And this is the plague of unicorns as foretold in the Old Testament?
Yes. It's the King James version, though. So that's it. No, they say it's the plague of beasts. So this is the plague of beasts. I didn't write the movie.
The plague of mystical beasts.
1,000%. The plague of mystical beasts.
How about the jackass who's killed by his masquerade mask?
Oh, yes. The plague of frogs. Homie goes to a masquerade ball, which he didn't know was a masquerade ball. And they put a frog head on him. And there's some kind of mechanism that when you attach it, it like keeps tightening it. And I guess the music was loud because he's sitting there going, ah! And people don't seem to notice.
Everybody talking. He never says a word. He just wanders around clutching it. I mean, what is this mask made out of? Steel? Is it 400 pounds? It's paper mache, right? You can't pull that goddamn thing off.
Can't pull it off.
Then you get what you get, and you don't throw a fit.
Yep. The plague of frogs was a crazy paper mache Mardi Gras head for the underwear. Oh my God, this movie.
Until his head popped.
Until his
and he
head
looked
popped.
like that Warner Brothers mascot who tap danced. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes! Hello, my
Hello,
baby!
my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello,
100%.
my ragtime gal. The next thing I wrote down, the dude who got killed by losing all his blood, he was watching his naughty films. The housekeeper said, "I've set aside some cold brawn for you for your dinner." I'm like, what the is cold brawn? Head cheese.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I looked it up. So she set aside some head cheese for him to nibble on while he's watching his porn.
Oh my God. Oh my sweet Jesus. I'm over it. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. No, literally in the thrilling climax, Joseph Cotton manages to save his son. Like, the cops don't do a goddamn thing. They follow the mute woman down, and she accidentally douses herself with acid. So nice.
She's a dum-dum.
Because she's a dum-dum. And Vincent Price, has succeeded in pretty much his entire plot. And then he goes down into the boudoir, whereas there's Caroline Munro, perfectly preserved. He lays down next to her.
Looks perfectly fine, ready for another Sinbad.
Looks great. And he basically embalms himself, and the thing closes on him, and the cops go, "Where is he?" "Oh, well, another unsolved mystery."
Unsolved mystery.
Credits roll.
Gone forever. What can we do? The stupidest thing. So, Joseph Cotton's plague was the death of the firstborn.
Yes.
So they've kidnapped his son, and they left him some schematics. They buried a key inside his body. And
how did they do that? Okay, we got to talk about this. This is kind of like Saw, where the guy's like, the key is inside the person's body. Did he swallow it? Or did you actually surgically, using your doctor skills, Dr. Phibes, might I add, to insert the key inside of him? Because he said it's near the heart.
It's by his heart, so he didn't swallow it.
Right.
They gave him schematics, and all I kept thinking is, can't they just go in? I mean,
100%.
He's not like some Wolverine. He didn't re-heal immediately. So just slide right in there, grab that key, and unlock it. What
Pop
the hell?
Fucking stitches. Exactly. And just reach in there. You've got time to spare at that point. Right.
Pop and lock.
100%. Not the best plan, Dr. Phibes.
Yeah.
At one point,
they didn't really giza.
So, because he was horribly burned, he basically wears a Vincent Price mask that you see him put on like a nose and ears and like, here are my sideburns and shit. But he can't move his he can't move his lips. I guess what it is. So there's a lot of him talking, but you can't hear him until he plugs the thing into his neck. I'm not sure how this works.
Well, because it's very clear. If you studied science at all, you know your voice comes out of your jugular vein. That's just 100%. Science.
It's just good science. Sadly, I only got my doctorate in theology and pipe organry. So I don't know such things as anatomy. Oh God. So he had, when he does talk to Joseph Cotton, he's got to carry around like a big old I don't even know what the hell this thing is, like a speaker box, like oh God, are we still popping and locking?
And pop and lock it. It never stops.
Dr.
Even
Phibes.
In the 1920s/60s.
Do you know they made a sequel to this GD movie?
I'm not sure I saw it.
I never
Dr.
saw it either.
Phibes Rises Again. We'll have to put it on the list.
I don't know if we're putting it on the list.
All Phibes weekend.
It's all Phibes. Oh God. No, what's funny, and you and I both discovered this, if you want to watch the Abominable Dr. Phibes, the original classic, you basically have to go to YouTube.
Yeah.
And just watch it as it is, just somebody ripped it and just tossed it up there. Whereas the sequel, the less heralded Phibes Rides Again or whatever the hell it's called, that's just streaming. That's just available.
It doesn't make any goddamn sense. I ended up watching this on somebody's Bay Area creature feature program. They were trying to pull an Elvira. So
Just
they
some
did do it a
rando.
couple of it's like in a haunted house, and there's like a butler, there's some kind of gothy dude, and like an assistant, a little girl with long, like, she looks like the little girl from Interview with the Vampire.
Oh, Kirsten Dunst.
She looks like a Kirsten Dunst.
Interesting.
And they just chit chat. But they did bring up an interesting point that they glued Vincent Price's mouth shut.
Correct. I think that was like, he kind of wanted that as well. Like they put some kind of something on him where when they're close,
me enough to talk.
Basically, and I guess there was tension on set because Joseph Cotton was like, "What the hell, bro? I have all these lines I have to memorize." You know, you're towards the end of your career when you're like, "Why do I have so many lines?"
Because you're carrying the whole show, brother.
When you're a young actor, you're like, "Please give me more lines." And when you're Joseph Cotton in 1972, you're like, "Can I also be mute?" No.
Vincent... It is an interesting choice for Joseph Cotton, who, like in the 40s, could have been nominated for multiple Academy Awards.
Of course.
Was amazing. You know, he died in the Springs.
I did not know that.
He was a Palm Springs guy. I mean, Joseph Cotton was in Alfred Hitchcock's Shadow of a Doubt, Sunset Boulevard. I mean, he's serious.
Orson Welles movies.
Serious. Oh, he was in Citizen Kane.
Absolutely.
I mean, he was a real dude.
He was a real dude.
A real fucking dude. It was a crime he never won an Academy Award.
Well, as we all know, by the 70s, these dudes are like, I got bills to pay. He was in Soylent Green. And not a big part. Not a big part. He said, I'll take fewer lines. They said, okay, Chuck Connors can kill you a scene earlier. We're good. So.
But there was a real thing. I remember watching Bugs Bunny cartoons with some of these, Bob Hope and all these guys. They couldn't get work. It was all like when you get to the 60s, it's this whole new breed, it's the war. In the 70s, those old famous dudes could not find work.
Well, and the studio system is starting to crumble.
Right. So there's no guaranteed paycheck.
Right. Well,
and it's a different style of acting.
Different style of acting. It was less about, we just want like kind of movie star looking people, to Dustin Hoffman is now getting cast. It's like, now if you're a good enough actor, we'll put you in even if you look like a little troll.
Right.
So no offense, Dustin, if you're listening.
Yeah.
So any last thoughts or feelings about Dr. Phibes?
I don't know what someone would say if they watched this for the first time, but for me, it is just so campy and silly that if it's on, if I'm flipping the dial, I'll be like, Dr. Phibes! I'll just put it on.
You're in. 100%.
You're in.
It's that thing, and we've talked about it before. There's definitely kind of an old school nostalgia.
Yeah.
You know
that's
what I mean?
What it is.
It is. And if you watch a Vincent Price movie, you're going to get a little camp. You're not going to be dealing with kind of upsetting themes.
No.
You know what I mean? There's none of that stuff. It's just old-fashioned kind of camp horror is what we're talking about.
I will tell you, I think it's The House on Haunted Hill, the Vincent Price one. Is that the one with the trapdoor of acid?
Yes.
And the skeleton that walks around? That scared the shit out of me as a child.
There's that moment where what's-her-name comes around the corner. You see like the witch woman is like there. That was scary. Yes. That was a scary moment. 100%.
I know I just said Vincent Price is never scary, but I take that back because now I remember as a kid, but I was like, why do they have a pit of acid under the floor? That's terrible.
That's what people do. They just used to have pits of acid just to watch your stuff.
That's going to come in handy. Be like a scout. Be prepared.
Be prepared.
But at this late date, we're dealing with campy, so it's kind of fun. And again, I'm going to say Theater of Blood, which is even weirder and campier than this. It's even more over the top, so it's even funnier.
Add it to the list.
It's on the list, brother.
Shall we go behind the scenes?
Lay it on me.
We talked about this. Joseph Cotton would grumble on the film set that he had to remember and deliver lines while Vincent Price's were all post-dubbed. Price responded, yes, but I still know them, Joe. That's why Vincent Price.
I love it. I love it.
In fact, Price was well known in Hollywood for his ability to memorize all the characters' lines in a given production, not just his own.
Well, that's standard. If you're doing lines with someone, you know your lines and the lines that are being read right after. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's not like you black out because you got to listen for the next line. That's acting, friend.
100%. 100%. In the original script, Phibes was abusive to Volnavia, the mute assistant, eventually stabbing her to death and then escaping his house, which was to catch on fire in a hot air balloon with Victoria's body. It was decided.
There was this Around the World in 80 Days
100%.
with a corpse and Dr. Phibes.
That is a slow ass way to escape, by the way. You'll never catch me in my hot air balloon.
Peter Lorre will have to do a cameo at some point.
100%. It was decided to make Phibes a more sympathetic character, so these scenes were cut.
I'm not sure I've ever felt sympathy for him.
Vincent Price often cracked up during filming, wrecking his makeup in the process. Thanks, Vincent. This is hilarious. Originally advertised in the US with the tagline, "Love means never having to say you're ugly," which was a parody of the famous line from the film Love Story in 1970.
Very
there
nice.
You go.
When I think of Love Story, I think of Dr. Phibes.
100%. In order to gain more publicity, this film was advertised as Vincent Price's 100th film, which makes it seem like it's not really his 100th film.
It is not really his 100th film.
Yep.
And he went on to make like 100 more.
You're absolutely right. In order for Joseph Cotten to know his cues, Phibes' dialogue was read aloud by a crew member. Phibes' wife, shown in photos and in her double coffin at the end of the film, was played by Caroline Munro. She is not credited in this movie as she was under contract to Hammer Films at the time. Boom.
So they figured no one would notice? They just slip her in there?
They would not notice. And we said this before, the film takes place in 1925. This is revealed as the Phibes' tombstone say 1921, and the characters say Anton and Victoria both died 4 years earlier.
That's bullshit.
It is what it is. Shall we talk about
Joseph Cotton's apartment is not from the 20s.
It's a swinging 70s condo. No question.
100%.
No question. Directed by Robert Fuest. We've actually done a movie of his recently. Do you remember what it was?
That? No.
He is known for The Final Program in 1973. No. Dr. Phibes Rises Again, 1972. The Abominable Dr. Phibes, 1971. Just Like a Woman, 1967. He also directed something you might have heard of, The Devil's Reign, 1975.
Well, clearly this is much better than The Devil's Reign. So we're assuming he's improving, right?
Well, The Devil's Reign pretty much killed his career. So such is life. Let's see. Vincent Price played Dr. Anton Phibes. You know him from such things as The Abominable Dr. Phibes, House on Haunted Hill, 1959, Laura, 1944, The Ten Commandments in 1956. The list goes on and on and on.
Edward Scissorhands.
Edward Scissorhands.
His last film.
Absolutely. He did a bunch of Roger Corman stuff in the 60s, like the Edgar Allan Poe movies.
Don't you wish you were alive and could have been in a Roger Corman film? Wouldn't that have been the best?
He was still doing stuff like pretty much up until the day he died. So we had chances. We just didn't take advantage.
Damn
Very
it.
sad. Joseph Cotten played Dr. Vesalius, which is a bizarre name.
All the names in this movie were weird and bizarre.
You know Joseph Cotten for The Third Man in 1949.
Love The Third Man. I went on the Third Man Museum and the Third Man Tour when I was in Vienna.
He was in Citizen Kane in 1941.
Love it.
Gaslight in 1944.
He was the hero. Love it.
The Magnificent Ambersons in 1942.
Never saw that.
He was in one episode of The Love Boat in 1981. There you go. For Joseph Cotten. Let's talk about Virginia North, played Volnavia, the mute assistant Oh God. No
Full
explanation
knob,
who
yeah.
she is or what she's about. You know her from On Her Majesty's Secret Service
All
in
right.
1969, The Abominable Dr. Phibes, Deadlier Than the Male in 1967.
Is the male deadly?
Who's to say? She was only in 6 things. So
Yeah.
there you go. And Dr. Phibes was her last thing. So very
She was
upsetting.
like, I've had enough of this shit.
Terry Thomas played Dr. Longstreet, the stag film watching freak.
Head cheese eating stag film watching.
He was in It's a Mad, 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 Mad World in 1963, which I enjoy. He was in the animated Disney movie Robin Hood, playing Sir Hiss. 1960s School for Scoundrels. And 1978's The Hound of the Baskervilles. There you go. Anybody else you want to know about? I don't
Nope.
think so. That's about it. Shall we look at the rating then?
Indeedly do.
The Abominable Dr. Phibes currently 88% on Rotten
right.
Tomatoes, certified
All
fresh.
right.
Do you know what the audience gave it?
67.
75. Look at that.
Ooh. Ooh.
Looking at the top critics, Variety staff say anachronistic period horror musical camp fantasy is a fair description, loaded with comedic gore of the type that packs theaters and drives child psychologists up the walls.
Please. Ridiculous.
David Robinson from the Financial Times, that's interesting.
Why is the Financial Times reviewing this?
They got stuff to say. Mr. Fuest makes very tolerable use of biz means, add to which he has the overwhelming advantage of Vincent Price as the Abominable Dr. Phibes. I don't know what any of that means.
I don't know what that means. Thank you, Financial Times. Your sister Brianna, she used to work for the Financial Times.
She did. Jeff Andrew from Time Out. Often amusing, occasionally sickening, always impressive for the imaginative Art Deco sets, is pretty flatly directed. I don't know, is that a positive review? Who's to say?
Not. There was positive review of the sets, I think.
Aaron!
Sickening.
It was sickening.
Yeah, it was right up there with The Devil's Reject.
The Devil's Reject. Well, when you splash someone with asparagus goo and the locusts get at you, that's upsetting to me. Anyway, what is your rating, Aaron?
For nostalgia and because it's Vincent Price and because I just like it. I'm going to give it a 3.5. Kissing Vincent Price's real face, which is crusty and crackly like an old dried pork rind, out of 5.
I mean, I think I'm probably right there with you. I'm going to say 3.25. Mostly for nostalgia, because there's some stretches in this that are boring as hell. Ain't no lie. The extended Vincent Price working the pipe organ, I could have done without.
Too much pipe organ.
Too much GD pipe organ.
Well, you can put it on, and if you got to get up and make popcorn, no loss.
Go to the bathroom. You're not missing anything.
You don't need to pause it.
Please.
It's cool.
It's cool. But, I mean, the Vincent Price doing Vincent Price shit is always a crowd pleaser.
Always entertaining.
If you're flipping channels...
You know, if you look closely at Joseph Cotton, you can see the rage in his eyes.
100%. 100%. So, any last thoughts before we move on?
Joseph Cotton's an interesting character because even when he was young, he looked like he was 50 years old.
Yes. So he looks 75.
Boulevard, he's like playing somebody who's like late 20s, early 30s, and he looks like he's 48 years old.
Isn't that William Holden?
Oh, shit. That is William Holden. Never mind. William Holden looks really fucking old.
He does too. Well, he was a hard drinker and a hard smoker, so
I love William Holden though. Remember when he was on I Love Lucy and she was staring at him and he jumps around in the booth and just starts staring at Lucy until she has a nervous breakdown? You're right. But I still love Joseph Cotton because he wasn't the Alfred Hitchcock.
He was. Orson Welles, Alfred Hitchcock. He was doing his shit. Anywho, so thank you very much. We're across social media. We're on X, Blue Sky, Threads. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You may be
We're
watching us
here,
on
we're
YouTube.
there, we're everywhere, so beware.
So don't forget, you can also email us, the podcast that wouldn't die at Gmail. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere the finer podcasts are available. So don't forget to like, share, rate, and review. Won't you?
Won't you please?
Aaron, what is your social media situation?
I think I'm on Artsy and First Dibs, Aaron Doherty, but mostly I'm the cult of Aaron. Join the cult on the gram.
Join that cult! As you know, we like to have questions, comments from our favorite people. Let's take a look. So, here are some comments. Let's see. Talking about our episode Hatchet. Big Wet Fart commented, "The Swamp Children!" Like laughing, crying emoji. So that was nice of them to talk about that. Convict 3D157455 says, "The Hatchet movies are awesome." Okay, fair enough. And
Are they really?
Mark Rodriguez talking about Ghoulies says, "That's a good movie." So there you
Is
go.
it?
It's something. Oh, sweet Jesus. Next week, we've talked about it many times, but we've never actually discussed it. We're going to be talking about the Stephen King classic. No, it's not. The Lawnmower Man. Starring Pierce Brosnan during his I gotta pay the bills period as well, and Jeff Fahey. If you want to watch The Lawnmower Man, although I don't know why you might feel so compelled, you can watch it on Fubo, Roku, Stars, Hoopla, Vudu with ads, and Tubi with ads, Pluto TV, Shout Factory, Freevee. Look at all this stuff. You have options.
I've never heard of half this shit. What the hell is a Shout Factory?
Shout Factory, Galooly. If you want to watch it on Galooly, you can do that.
Jeff Galooly?
So check that out. Send in any favorite scenes, favorite quotes, comments, and questions, and we may talk about it on the show. So thank you very much, and be well.
Good day.